Classic Mortal Kombat filled with classic characters, fan favorites that are near and dear to so many fans' hearts. I am one of them. Speaking of hearts, can you guys just tear the heart out of the like button for me? I would greatly appreciate it. Except if you're a Melina fan, especially one of the toxic ones, you might want to spit some nails at the dislike button because unfortunately, she's not on the list. When I say classic returning characters, I mean characters specifically from what's referred to as the Trilogy era, which is comprised of the first 3 Mortal Kombat games. These characters are for the most part the most prominently featured throughout the series and make up some of the most popular and recognizable characters in Mortal Kombat history. Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Raiden, Kano, and Goro, for example, are extremely recognizable as characters from Mortal Kombat. Their iconic appearances in the first game and the original movie immediately make you think Mortal Kombat, even from a casual audience perspective. That being said, let's get to the list. At number 5, Reptile. It would be odd for Reptile to sit out 2 games in a row. Since his playable debut in Mortal Kombat 2, that's never happened. In a lot of ways, Reptile is the Mortal Kombat character. He's not as beloved and iconic as Scorpion and Sub-Zero, sure. Although he was in the original MK movie, he was the first secret character of the series, introduced in Mortal Kombat 1, and he's a ninja, which alone makes him a fan favorite, of course. It would be extremely odd for him not to show up again, so I consider him a near guarantee. Him being an MKX means my clamoring for him isn't as high as the others on my list, but I do look forward to his return. Number 4, fittingly enough, is the Four-Armed Shokan. No, the other Shokan. No, I mean the other Shokan. Of course, I'm referring to the black sheep of the bunch, and that's Kentaro. Goro may be the most popular Shokan and one of the most recognizable characters in the series, thanks mainly to his portrayal in the original movie, multiple appearances in the series, and being the OG sub-boss. But Kentaro is cool too, and doesn't get near as much love. Shiva being the female Shokan rep, and her playability in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 sort of gives her the leg up as well to set herself apart. So naturally, Kentaro has taken a bit of a backseat, but it's time for that to change. Kentaro is possibly the most overdue character on this list, but I think there's more investment in the remaining picks, thus his placement as number 4 here. I love the original Kentaro morph fatality for Shang in MK2, and the one in MK11 was extremely sick as well. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe Kentaro will be the pre-order bonus for MK12, continuing the trend we've seen with the big bad bruiser boss type filling that spot, as we had with Goro in MKX, and then Shao Kahn in MK11. Let's give the big boy his own spot on the roster this time around and stop relegating his moveset to a Goro variation. Speaking of no more being relegated to another character's variation, at number 3 we have Sector. Let's face it, Sector got robbed in Mortal Kombat X. Triborg should not have been DLC, it should have just been Sector. If they were hell-bent on having the different cyborgs each be a variation, which I vocally expressed my displeasure on that approach going back all the way before it was even revealed that that was to be the case during our Netherkast podcast leading up to Kombat Pack 2's reveal, when the idea was first speculated on as a potential option. I don't like regulating characters that have previously been their own character slot on the roster to a single variation. It feels disrespectful to the character's fans, as if that character is less than the other characters. Triborg should have just been Sector, and they could have had a Smoke variation and a Cyrax variation if they must, but even then, I'd rather they just have given Sector his chance to shine and flesh him out more. Instead, we got a character that likely doesn't even really exist, which sucks for Sector fans, especially since he has yet to appear in a game alone, unlike Smoke and Cyrax. Sector was awesome in MK11's story mode. Sector fans deserve so much better, and the character could be utilized so much more. And that leads us to number 2, which is another character that was awesome in MK11's story mode and left unplayable, and that's Cyrax. It's crazy to me that Cyrax and Sector's models were made, were great, and they were fightable, but neither were playable. And to have that after just being relegated to mere variation names and identities for Triborg and MKX just hurts. It's no secret that Cyrax is my favorite character, but it's been tough being a Cyrax fan these past couple games. He went from a decent showing in MK9 to being relegated to an oil sign tongue-in-cheek homage in MKX's story mode, so essentially completely absent, even though he was one of the very few who were left alive at the end of MK9. Then in MKX prequel comics, he chooses to sacrifice his life unnecessarily, self-destructing, to wipe out all the Lin Kuei cyber ninjas created by Sector. And it was not in some last-ditch heroic effort type deal. No. It was him telling Sub-Zero after things were already taken care of so that all these abominations be destroyed, leaving no trace. And Sub-Zero lets him do it. Then in MK11, what happens? He once again sacrifices himself, at least this time in a more helpful situation, but acts as if he doesn't even care to be resurrected. Thankfully, Sub-Zero assures him he will find a way to return him to life at some point. I don't know what their obsession is with Cyrax killing himself. Maybe it's the old MK3 self-destruct fatality and it's just a running gag that he always wants to kill himself in story. I don't get it. So I'm not sure where things stand with Cyrax, but man, once he missed that bust for MKX's roster, it all fell apart from there. Cyrax was such a cool character in MK Deadly Alliance, and I loved his redemption arc he was on. Even joining the Outworld Protection Agency with Kenshi, Sonya, and Jack, showing actual character growth as he searched to regain his humanity, but he hasn't gotten the same love since. And that brings us to number 1, and that is Smoke. Look, I'm starting to see a trend here of characters on this list who have gotten the short straw many times, and their fans have had to just sort of take it. Smoke was right up there in the top 3 characters people were asking for to return in Mortal Kombat 11, and instead he got nothing. Similar to Sector and Cyrax, he's continually gotten the shaft over the years, going several games without an appearance multiple times over, and was a Triborg variation, and worse yet, got his story essentially molded into Cyrax's for the most part in MK9. Going into MK11, Smoke has to be one of, if not the most desired character to return after his absence in X and 11. If it were up to me, let's get all the cyborgs in and as many of the ninjas in. They are MK staples, and there's never been a bad roster when you have a lot of them around. And that concludes my list of the 5 classic characters in Mortal Kombat that I want to see make MK12. Now, the funny thing about the list is when I was putting it together, I was originally going to restrict myself to only characters that didn't make it into Mortal Kombat 11. That sort of ended up happening anyways, but I just thought it was interesting because then I realized there's only 10 characters that I can choose from. There's the 5 that I put in the video, plus Stryker, Ermac, Motaro, and then the 2 chameleons. So just crazy to me how many of them make Mortal Kombat generally, but also how many were in Mortal Kombat 11 and they just dominate the roster space. Obviously, I've kind of spoken about how much I want to see that kind of dial back a little bit to make some room for some 3D era characters to get some love as well. But I totally get it as well. You know, obviously they're the fan favorites, as I said at the start of the video. So I completely understand. That being said, I would greatly appreciate if you guys would, tear the heart out of the like button. As silly as that is, it would greatly benefit me. So I would really appreciate, your support, as well as if you leave a comment below and let me know which 5 classic characters you guys would choose. That being said, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll catch you later.